سيد المرسلين وخاتم النبيين وعلى آله وأصحابه الطيبين الطاهرين ومن اتبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ولا شبيه ولا مثيل له ولا ضد ولا ند ولا جسد ولا صورة ولا أعضاء له. كان الله ولا مكان، فهو الآن على ما عليه كان. فلا تضربوا لله الأمثال، ولله المثل الأعلى. تنزه ربي عن الجلوس والقعود، وعن الحركة والسكون، وعن الاتصال والانفصال. لا يحل فيه شيء ولا ينحل منه شيء ولا يحل هو في شيء، لأنه ليس كمثله شيء. مهما تصورت ببالك فالله لا يشبه ذلك. ومن وصف الله بمعنى من معاني البشر فقد كفر. وأشهد أن سيدنا وعظيمنا وقائدنا وقرة أعيننا محمدا عبد الله ورسوله ونبيه وصفيه وحبيبه وخليله، أرسله الله هدى ورحمة للعالمين، هاديا ومبشرا ونذيرا وداعيا إلى الله بإذنه سراجا وهاجا وقمرا منيرا. اللهم صل وسلم وأعظم وأنعم وأكرم على هذا النبي الكريم سيدنا محمد خاتم النبيين، كلما ذكره الذاكرون وغفل عن ذكره الغافلون. الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله، الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيدي يا حبيب الله، الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيدي يا عظيم الجاه. أما بعد، فنذكر أنفسنا بإخلاص النية لله تعالى في حضور هذا المجلس، مجلس علم الدين. I praise Allah, I glorify Him, and I thank Him for all the blessings that He gives without Him being obligated, and I ask Allah to raise the rank of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam and to protect his Muslim nation. Thereafter, remind ourselves to have the sincere intention for the sake of Allah in attending this session of Islamic knowledge, because having the sincere intention is a requirement to get the reward. So the Muslim, whenever he does a good deed, he has to have the sincere intention for the sake of Allah to get reward for that good deed. So we're going to continue on, inshallah, with the recitation and explanation of the Quran. And we got to ayah number 30 of Surah an-Naazi, and we mentioned some of the story of Prophet Musa alayhi salam that was leading up to the moment that it's mentioned here in Surah an-Naazi. So the story of Prophet Musa alayhi salam is mentioned in different places, different surahs, and it's mentioned with sometimes in certain surahs it's mentioned with more detail. Like for example here, it's only a part of it that's mentioned. So we mentioned that part and the message behind the story, that Prophet Musa alayhi salam, he was ordered to face the Pharaoh and call him to al-Islam and to guide him, yani for the Pharaoh's own good. This would be a benefit to the Pharaoh. But the Pharaoh refused, and Allah Ta'ala made an example out of him. And so if you remember when we mentioned from Surah An-Naba, the explanation of the ayat from the beginning and the main theme of that chapter, that we said that the mushrikun, they were skeptical about there being a hereafter. The mushrikun, they did not believe that, or most of them did not believe that there was going to be a resurrection. And some of them, they were not sure, asking each other about that. And so the beginning part of Surah An-Naba is emphasizing that Allah Ta'ala, that He has the power to resurrect the people after they die and to judge them. And even though after the person is dead and they get buried, their body disintegrates and their body turns to dust and nothing is left of them, but still, the one who made the earth stable for people to live on, the one who made the mountains as anchors, the one who created you diverse, and if you look around you, even in this room, there's much diversity. And Allah Ta'ala is the one who made all those things as they are. And so Allah Ta'ala, He has the power to resurrect the people. And that would be something that is not difficult to Allah. So similarly, here in Surah An-Nazi'at, on top of the fact that the mushrikun are threatened, Allah Ta'ala swearing by these angels that rip the souls out of the non-Muslims violently, by the angels that gently pull out the souls from the Muslims, by the angels that they fly back and forth obeying Allah and doing what Allah ordered them to do. Indeed, there is a judgment day, and indeed it will be something, all of the sudden, they'll be resurrected, they'll be brought back to life, and they'll be there waiting to get judged. And so after that is mentioned, then the story of Musa is mentioned, showing look what happened to someone who rejected and disbelieved and insisted on not following a prophet that was sent to them. It's like saying, "Oh Quraysh, look at what happened to the Pharaoh before you when he rejected Prophet Musa alayhi salam. And so what will happen to you for rejecting Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam?" So after that story, then we get to these ayat starting with 27. We mentioned it already, but from 27 on, it's also using the same rhetoric that was mentioned in Surah An-Naba about the magnitude and the greatness and the complexity of the creations that we witness right now. The one who has the power to create those has the power to resurrect you. So we mentioned verse 27, we mentioned verse 28, and these are basically together. So we got to number 30. So we're going to start with 31 let's recite from the beginning to 31. They're short ayat. So we'll start with this isti'adha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Usually we do call and response, so we're going to recite together, so that it doesn't take long. So we're going to start with the first ayah. On 3, 1, 2, 3. وَالنَّازِعَاتِ غَرْقًا وَالنَّاشِطَاتِ نَشْطًا وَالسَّابِحَاتِ سَبْحًا فَالسَّابِقَاتِ سَبْقًا فالمدبرات أمرا. You can follow along, you can recite together. يوم ترجف الراجفة تتبعها الرادفة قلوب يومئذ واجفة أبصارها خاشعة يقولون أئنا لمردودون في الحافرة أإذا كنا عظاما نخرة قالوا تلك إذا كرة خاسرة فإنما هي زجرة واحدة فإذا هم بالساهرة هل أتاك حديث موسى إذ ناداه ربه بالوادي المقدس طوى اذهب إلى فرعون إنه طغى فقل هل لك إلى أن تزكى وأهديك إلى ربك فتخشى فأراه الآية الكبرى فكذب وعصى ثم أدبر يسعى فحشر فنادى فقال أنا ربكم الأعلى فأخذه الله نكال الآخرة والأولى إن في ذلك لعبرة لمن يخشى أأنتم أشد خلقا أم السماء بناها رفع سمكها فسواها وأغطش ليلها وأخرج ضحاها والأرض بعد ذلك دحاها. So this is where we got to. So now we'll do the call and response for ayah 31 and then the next ayahs after that, along with the explanation. So ayah 31, I'm going to say it first and then you repeat. أخرج منها ماءها ومرعاها. Naam. So again, what's mentioned in this series of ayat, starting with the rhetorical question about creating the sky. أَأَنْتُمْ أَشَدُّ خَلْقًا أَمِ السَّمَاءُ بَنَاهَا. And it's a rhetorical question, which means, O people, are you greater as a creation, or is the sky? Allah created it, Allah constructed it. So, and these ayat are mentioning the same rhetoric that we talked about in Surah An-Naba, that Allah Ta'ala raised the surface of the sky and evened it, and Allah Ta'ala made the night dark and He brought out the morning light, and He made the earth expanded. And then verse 31 means He drew out from its water, He drew out from it, from the earth, its water and its pasture. So Allah Ta'ala created the earth in such a way that these things come from inside the earth. Verse 32, وَالْجِبَالَ أَرْسَاهَا, which means, and the mountains He firmly fixed. Again, Allah Ta'ala anchored the mountains on earth to keep the earth stationary. So yes, it doesn't move. Verse 33, and then that can be proved also according to so-called science. That can also be proven. It's just that, and I'll touch on that for a second. It's just that there is a culture in academia and in modern science, what they call modern science, where if there is a popular theory, any scientist that shows data to contradict that theory, he would usually be outcasted. So as a scientist, for example, it's like a big giant club, and to do your research and to do your experiments, you basically need someone to pay for it. And who are the people that are going to pay for it? Institutions, universities, whatever, these organizations. And if you go against their the narrative that they want to push, they're not going to give you any money to do your research. You're just going to sit by yourself. So the scientists that they can provide the data, they can provide the proof that contradicts the mainstream narrative, they don't get a platform, they don't get attention, they don't, for example, get popularity. They don't openly speak about it, etc. They don't crusade for it, because then they don't get any funding and they become ostracized and outcast by the community. They get mocked, they get belittled. The people, they mount campaigns against them, etc. Because there is an agenda to keep a certain narrative in the mainstream. The second thing that I'll say about that is, sometimes when you hear these people talk, it seems like what they're saying is intimidating. But in reality, it's not. For you yourself as a Muslim, you know that for sure the Quran is true. So it's easy for the Muslim to dismiss what they say, because if what they say goes against the Quran, then that's that's how you know immediately that it's false, that what they're saying is false. So you take that as a rule. Anything that contradicts the Quran is falsehood. Anything that cannot be made to fit into the facts and the established information from the Quran is false. So either those people, like we look into what they say and we break it down and we make it fit into what the Quran says, or we just completely reject it. And they don't have any valid proof to say other than the Quran, to contradict the Quran. Because guess what? Literally, right? Literally. Most of what they call modern science, like when it comes to talking about space and talking about this and talking about that, it's just their imagination. It's just their imagination. That's it. And then they try to write equations and try to write this and try to write that to make it fit. And it's just a theory, and they'll never say, oh, for sure it's like this or for sure it's like that. But they try to push that on people, subhanAllah. But anyway, we follow the Quran. So even if you don't have, let's say, the ability to talk like them and to express your point of view and to explain things like they do, etc., just know that anything that contradicts the Quran is automatically false. There's no way that they could be right and that the Quran would be wrong. There's no way. Because the Quran is revealed by Allah. And those people, most of them are atheists. They're so arrogant, they're so blinded by their desire to not acknowledge Allah, not acknowledge that the Creator exists, that they make up all these weird theories and stories. Subhanallah. Verse 33, مَتَاعًا لَكُمْ وَلِأَنْعَامِكُمْ مَتَاعًا لَكُمْ وَلِأَنْعَامِكُمْ, which means as provision for you and your livestock. So these things were created, the processes that of the rain falling and the rain nourishing the earth and the things that are inside of the earth coming out, vegetation and these ecosystems, all of that created by Allah as a provision for you and your livestock, as a benefit for you and for your animals that you benefit from. Specifically, an'am is referring to camels, cattle, and goats and sheep. And goats and sheep, they're of the same category. And so this is, these are essential. Where do we get the milk from? Where do we get the steaks from? So these are essential. Verse 34, فَإِذَا جَاءَتِ الطَّامَّةُ الْكُبْرَى. So for some tajweed, because we lesson the tajweed, this is called al-mad al-lazim. And this mad, it's the minimum extension that you're supposed to extend in the rules of tajweed is 6 harakat. So if you do it less than that, it's not considered that you applied the rule of tajweed. It's not forbidden, because any med that you do, if you do at least 2 harakat, then there's no sin. But depending on the type of med that it is, if you don't do it more than 2 harakat, then you won't have the tajweed. You won't have the judgment that you would have. It would be considered that you recited with tajweed. So here we have 6 harakat, because there is an extension, and there's an alif, and after it, there is a letter with a shadda, and that makes it al-maddul lazim, and that makes it so you have to do 6 harakat. And so it means, therefore, when the great infliction comes, all these things were mentioned, that Allah Ta'ala is the creator of these things, that He has the power to create these things. So then it says, and so when the great infliction comes, at-tammatul kubra is referring to Judgment Day and resurrection. It's the Judgment Day has many names. The day of reckoning, the day of accountability, the day of, and here, the great infliction. Because for those that did not prepare, is going to be the worst day. Verse 35, يَوْمَ يَتَذَكَّرُ الْإِنسَانُ مَا سَعَى. يوم يتذكر الإنسان ما سعى. So this is a description of what will happen on Judgment Day, and some of what will happen on Judgment Day. It means that day, man shall remember what he endeavored in, what he spent his actions in. On that day, one shall remember the good and bad deeds he performed during this life. One will see what is written in one's journal. One will see the things he had forgotten all about, either because of extreme negligence about those matters or because they happened long ago. And that goes for both, and for the Muslim at least, it goes for both the good and the bad. So, for example, in this life, the way that the Muslim should be is that he should do good deeds and without limiting himself. So any chance he has to do a good deed, he does it. 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 He does it, because over time that's going to accumulate, And then on Judgment Day, when he receives his book of good deeds, he's going to be happily surprised. He's not going to remember, subhanAllah, I did that good deed, I did that good deed, I did that good deed, I did that good deed. But on Judgment Day, he'll be happy about it, because when he's shown his book of deeds, it's going to be full and is going to have everything recorded. And on the other hand, you have the bad deeds that the person, subhanAllah, in a state of heedlessness, in a state of not a good state, this person, he might have forgot that sin that he committed 10 years ago, that he did not repent from. Or because of negligence, he didn't remember what he did. But on that day, he'll remember. On that day, it will all come back to him. If he didn't fix it before he died. Next ayah, verse 36. وَبُرِّزَتِ الْجَحِيمُ لِمَنْ يَرَى, which means, and hellfire shall be placed in full view for whoever can see. But on that day it'll be too late to regret. Hellfire shall be placed fully visible, fervently burning for everyone with sight. The believer shall be thankful to Allah for his endowments. Because on that day the Muslim, if he's forgiven or if he was pious, he'll be happy. Verse 37. فَأَمَّا مَنْ طَغَى. So here, again, the separation, the difference between the one who chose the right path and the one who chose the wrong path. So this means, as for the one who transgressed, and who committed sins and blasphemy, وَآثَرَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا, which means, and preferred the life of this world, the temporary life, indulged in the desires of this life, follow the personal desires while neglecting to prepare for the hereafter. فَإِنَّ الْجَحِيمَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى, which means, then certainly hellfire will be the dwelling place. Hellfire will be the dwelling place of whoever transgressed and preferred the pleasure of this life. That's what waits for the one who did not listen and did not take heed to the warning. The prophets, they came to tell the people, obey Allah or else. There's hellfire. Believe in Allah and His Messenger, or else there's hellfire forever. As a Muslim, obey Allah, or else you'll be tortured and punished. Verse 40. وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى. وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى. وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى. So now, after mentioning those that are not choosing the right path, those that they committed sins and blasphemy, those that did not listen, those that did not obey, after mentioning them, what's mentioned after them? The ones who did. So first we talked about those who transgress in sins and blasphemy. Now it's mentioning, it means, and for the one who feared standing for judgment, and he's standing to be judged, and had restrained himself from the desires. So first we talked about the one who transgressed and the one who sinned. Now we're going to talk about the ones who they prepared for Judgment Day. And so here it's important to understand, as Muslims, the creed of Islam is that Allah Ta'ala, He's the only one without a beginning. So in Islam we don't have anything like the Christians or the Jews do, where they imagine and they use their imagination as part of their creed. No, for us it's clear. Allah is the only one that has no beginning. This is established in the Quran and in the Hadith. هو الأول والآخر is the verse from the Quran that proves that Allah Ta'ala exclusively is the one without a beginning. And in the Hadith, كان الله ولم يكن شيء غيره, it also proves without a doubt that Allah Ta'ala has no beginning to His existence. So this is the case. So since that is the case, it means that none of the attributes of the creations apply to Allah. And it means that whatever applies to us, then it doesn't apply to Allah. So what is some of the things that applies to us? So what among the things that applies to us, for example, like you get a ticket, you fight the ticket, you go to court, you wait your turn, then when your name is called, you stand in front of the judge. The judge is sitting on a bench, sitting on a chair, sitting in some high place, and the person that is, standing there to be judged, he is going to be questioned by the judge or whatever. They're going to have a conversation. So that is not what is going to happen on Judgment Day. This is not what's going to happen on Judgment Day. Some people, they think that. The Wahhabis, they believe that. They think that. That's what they believe in their heart. That's what they believe. That's their creed. They use certain words in English and certain things in English that give that impression. Why? Because they misunderstand the Arabic language. Because they don't understand the Arabic language. So when we say al-wuquf bayna yaday Allah, معناه الوقوف في المكان الذي خصصه الله للحساب لهذا الإنسان. معناه هذا الإنسان هو يحاسب في ذاك المكان، وحكم الله تعالى ينطبق عليه، يكون عليه حكم الله. ليس معناه أن الواحد منا يكون في أرض المحشر والعياذ بالله كما يظن المجسمة، الله تعالى يكون هناك ويحكم بين الناس. ليس هكذا. وإن قال قائل من المشبهة، نحن لا نتصوره، هو عنده يوجد صورة لكن لا نعلمها. هذا هو عين الكفر. هذا هو الكفر الصريح. فمعنى قوله تعالى وأما من خاف مقام ربه ونهى النفس عن الهوى، أي وأما الذي يخاف ذاك الموقف يوم القيامة أن يكون ممن يعذب أو يكون ممن تراكمت عليه الذنوب، الذي يخاف من هذا الموقف يجتنب المحرمات. فليس معناه كما يظن المشبهة. So it doesn't mean that that Allah Ta'ala is going to be there on Judgment Day and He's going to be like overseeing and overlooking and judging the people, and you're going to be standing there, as some people think, na'udhu billah, as they say, in front of Allah. So this means that he's standing for the judgment of Allah. And that's what it means for to be judged by Allah. Now some people, they say standing before his Lord. There's room in the English language for that not to have a physical meaning. But still the best is not to use that type of wording. Because when a person hears standing before his Lord, he might think that. He might think that bad thing. So that's not proper. So, but what it means is the people, they're going to be standing, yes. The people are going to be on the changed earth, yes. And the people are going to be judged. But it's not going to be like, when you go to court and you're standing there and the judge is talking to you. It's not going to be like that. So these verses, they're referring to the position that those people are in, waiting to be judged by Allah Ta'ala. So as for the one who feared that day, who feared to be in that position and be judged by Allah, in the case that the person had many sins, and so because he feared to be in that position on Judgment Day, while in this life he restrained himself from those desires, those haram desires, from the sins and prohibitions. فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. Which means then certainly paradise will be the abode. And for the one who feared being judged on Judgment Day, like with many sins, and the one who feared coming on Judgment Day and having sins on Judgment Day, the one who feared being in that situation where he is being judged by Allah for the many sins that he committed, and so because he feared to be in that situation where he is under the risk of getting punished, and so because of that fear, he is in this life stopping himself from following his evil inclinations. He's stopping himself from committing sins. He's stopping himself from doing the haram. Then his final destination, his abode, his place where he's going to reside in will be paradise, for the one who did the good deeds. Verse 42, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ السَّاعَةِ أَيَّانَ مُرْسَاهَا. So it means they mockingly ask you about the hour, when is its establishment. Remember, the idol worshippers, the mushrikun, back then, during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they were vile people. And just as they are today, they are vile people. And they would mock the Muslims. And here in this ayah we see how they are mocking the Prophet ﷺ. A lot of them, they did not take the Prophet ﷺ seriously, just as the idol worshippers today also. But so remember, the main creed of the idol worshippers is that there is no afterlife, there is no resurrection, there is no Judgment Day. We just die and that's it. And so they mockingly asked the Prophet ﷺ, when is Judgment Day? So mockingly, the blasphemers of Mecca, they ask the Prophet ﷺ when the appointed time of Judgment Day will occur. That's the meaning of verse 42. They mockingly ask you, O Muhammad, about the hour. When is its establishment? Verse 43, فِيمَ أَنْتَ مِنْ ذِكْرَاهَا. This means, about what is this question? You, O Muhammad, are among its signs. Why do they ask you, O Muhammad, when you have no knowledge of its time? In this ayah, Allah Ta'ala denounced the mushrikun, the idol worshippers, for asking Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam when the appointed time of Judgment Day is. Because that's one of the things that have been hidden by Allah Ta'ala. And whatever information that Allah keeps hidden, it's impossible for any creation to reach it. So any information that Allah kept hidden, it's impossible for any creation to reach it. Even a prophet, even an angel. So this is why the Muslim, he sits back. When he hears these non-Muslims, they say their lies about supposedly the end of the world, and it's happened many times in our lifetime, where the non-Muslims said the world is going to end. They did it in 1999. They said the world was going to end. They did it in 2012. They said the world was going to end. And Allah Ta'ala knows best how many more times they will do it. But these days, that's becoming increasingly popular, where people say stuff like that, where they talk about a comet or an asteroid, or they talk about, the weather and this or that's going to happen, and they say that the world's going to end. But for sure, we know that the world is going to end, yes, but we know that before it ends, certain things have to happen first. And they haven't happened, so we know that they're liars, the people that they try to supposedly predict. Subhanallah. Verse 44, إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ مُنْتَهَاهَا, which means to your Lord alone is the extent of its knowledge. So Allah Ta'ala alone knows the appointed time of Judgment Day. No one else has such knowledge. Verse 45, إِنَّمَا أَنْتَ مُنذِرُ مَنْ يَخْشَاهَا. So basically, the response to the mushrikun is, you don't have to know the exact time that Judgment Day is to believe that it's going to happen. And so the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he wasn't sent to tell people when Judgment Day is. He was sent to tell people to prepare for Judgment Day. Because that's the point, really. Because still, even if you supposedly knew when it was, you're not going to, let's say, live that long. You're not going to live up to that moment. So you have to prepare anyways, because you're going to die, usually, and most likely, before it happens. Verse 46, كَأَنَّهُمْ يَوْمَ يَرَوْنَهَا لَمْ يَلْبَثُوا إِلَّا حَشِيَّةً أَوْ ضُحَاهَا. One more time. كَأَنَّهُمْ يَوْمَ يَرَوْنَهَا لَمْ يَلْبَثُوا إِلَّا حَشِيَّةً أَوْ ضُحَاهَا. Which means the day they see it, it will be as if they lived in this world the duration of a single evening's dusk or a single morning's light of the sun. Yani. And it happens, let's say, like to bring it closer to the understanding, it happens here in this life where, let's say, an event, you're waiting for an event to happen. And let's say it's going to happen in a month or 2 months or 3 months. As the day passes and the times pass, and you're looking forward to the event, and then all of a sudden the event is here. And it's as if the time that has passed was a short time. It feels like a fast thing. And also like the other way around. Let's say you started going to college, and then all of a sudden it's graduation day. and you look back at the journey and you feel like it was just yesterday you started your college, etc. Things like that. So something similar, or something like that, is going to be the case for those non-Muslims on Judgment Day. Yani, once they see it, they're going to feel like this whole entire dunya that they lived was like a short amount of time. When the blasphemers see Judgment Day, it will be as if they lived in this world for a single evening's dusk or a single morning's pre-noon sunshine. What is meant is that at these times, the world seems little in the eyes of the kuffar. Because that's the reality of this world. The Muslim, the intelligent Muslim, he knows that this world, it doesn't have a high status. It doesn't mean much. This world, and even the hadith, is explicitly mentioned what the example of the world is. إن الله ضرب طعام ابن آدم مثلا للدنيا فإنه وإن قزحه وملحه فانظر إلى ماذا يصير. So this hadith tells us that it means indeed Allah Ta'ala made the food of the human as an example for the dunya. Because indeed, no matter how he seasons it, no matter how he salts it, look at what it becomes. So, and even before you swallow it. And we're not just talking about the end result of digestion. Even before you swallow it, you see the food is prepared. And like food is like a big thing for some people. Like the food industry is a huge industry. Not just talking about like low quality, like fast food, like food truck and this and that. There's literally like a whole culture of like making food, mixing together flavors, like the chefs, and how they put like a little tiny piece of food on a plate and they make it like decorate it, and it costs $1,000 because of the flavor. It's not the amount, it's the flavor. So, and it is so much preparation, so much effort and work that goes into that, at that level, like the chef level. We're not talking about like fast food or food that's mass produced. But still, even that food, like your food from a food truck or something, it still requires that effort and preparation. Because even if you're not doing it like Top Chef, you're doing it like you still have to season it, you have to marinate it, you have to put it in the fridge, like make a big amount and put it like the bins and put them somewhere so that, when it's time to cook the order, you cook it there, etc. Like all these things. So it's prepared, it's nice. You have a nice, juicy, halal burger. And you want it and you desire it when you're hungry and you want to eat it. You take that bite and you chew it. Before you swallow it, if you were to open your mouth and look at it, what's inside of your mouth, you would be disgusted. فَانظُرْ إِلَى مَاذَا يَصِيرُ. And that's before you swallow it. So what happens and then after you swallow it? Even before it finishes digestion. Because if it comes back up, it's also disgusting. But then it gets digested and then it comes out the other end, and it's something that even from your own self, you're repulsed by it. You're disgusted by it. That's the parable, the example that is given for the dunya. No matter how shiny and appealing and attractive the dunya seems, it's just that end result. Decay, repulsion, rotting, falling apart, collapsing, disintegrating. Yeah, that outfit, when you first got it, looked so good, but then a couple months later, it's faded, it's worn. You throw it on the floor in a pile, you don't even hang it up. The house, let's say when you first got it, it was nice and it was clean, but then you're living in it, dust everywhere, all types of stains, unless you clean it every single day. Some people, they don't. They just leave it. The car, when you first get the car, nice, shiny, smells good, and then you drive it, and what happens? The tires, they get worn down. One time in the parking lot, somebody was careless and the shopping cart, boom, hits the fender, now you have a dent. When you're driving on the road, there's rocks sometimes on the road, they bounce and they hit your windshield, now you have a little crack on your windshield now. You can't just snap your fingers and it goes away if you want to get rid of it. There's a process. There's something that has to be done for it to go away. You yourself, when you're young, when you're 10 years old, your skin so nice and tight, no wrinkles, no creases, no lines, so full of youth and life. But then as you get older, things start to sag and drag. The lines on your face become more apparent. You're looking like you're getting worn and torn. That's how it goes. That's the dunya. So those kuffar on Judgment Day, and that's the meaning of the last ayah, is that not just that they will feel like it was a short time, but the dunya they will realize that the dunya is so little, that it doesn't mean much. All of that they had or that they experienced, where is it now? It's in the past. And now the only thing that they have in front of them is the torture. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. We ask Allah Ta'ala to make us die as perfect Muslims. We ask Allah Ta'ala to make our final words, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadun Rasulullah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. If there are no questions, we'll conclude. If you have a question, you can type it in the chat. Nothing. طيب نهلل لا إله إلا الله اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم رب اغفر لي وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات وبارك الله فيكم السلام عليكم